Here's a story we broke for you last hour. CNN suing the Trump administration over Jim Acosta's banishment from the White House. Here's CNN's statement, or at least part of it. The wrongful revocation of these credentials violates CNN and Acosta's First Amendment rights of freedom of the press and their Fifth Amendment rights to due process. All rise. Judge Napolitano is here. Answer that charge, please.
Well, this is a sweeping complaint filed by Ted Olson, right, usually associated with Republican causes in Washington, D.C. It's filed in federal court in Washington, D.C. It's not looking for money damages. It's looking for the immediate return of Jim Acosta's credentials. So they're arguing that he was punished because the president doesn't like his speech. That's the First Amendment argument. That his credentials were taken away without any notice to him or hearing. That's the Fifth Amendment argument. And then they quote the regulations. I'm smiling because you and I talked about this in the past, or during the break, in which you said what I think a lot of Americans agree with you on, that there should be a certain level of decorum in the White House press corps, and the failure to comply with that decorum should be grounds for revoking the pass. The only grounds for revoking the pass is the person a danger to the physical security of the president or his family. And obviously, Acosta may have been an irritant to the president, but it was hardly a danger to him. So I think CNN's got a very good case. I think this will be resolved quickly. I don't expect a jury trial. I think it'll either be settled or CNN will prevail on motion. Now, the president is a defendant. General Kelly is a defendant. Bill Shine is a defendant. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is a defendant. The head of the Secret Service is a defendant. And the particular Secret Service agent, they didn't know his name at the time they filed this, so they called him John Doe. He's the defendant as well.
So just so ever, I would imagine they'll change the rules.
The complaint is filled with Madisonian language that I love about the value of a free press to help Americans make free choices in the electoral process.
Yeah, but not the freedom to make a circus out of something. Hold on a second, Judge. As I understand it, Ash, Randall Stephenson, head of AT&T,
chief executive of AT&T, who owns CNN.
What's he saying?
Very supportive of CNN, Jeff Zucker, and they say, look, he says CNN likes Jim Acosta's work. He says this is wrong. He says if the White House wants to pull someone's press credentials, there's a process. You didn't like the line of questioning, question mark? Well, that kind of seems to be violative of our protections of freedom of the press.
Mr. Stephenson is exactly correct, and that's part of the argument. They didn't follow the process. Believe it or not, Acosta would be entitled to a hearing, and they would have to show which rule did he violate. And the only rule that has anything to do with what he did is, was he a danger to the president or the president's family? Obviously not.
Well, apart from taking his credentials away, couldn't they have just said, you, out, you're not coming in?
Yeah, let me tell you what Dana Perino, our colleague, told me George W. did. If somebody acted in a way that the president felt was personally offensive, he didn't call on him for 2 or 3 days. And then things calmed down on him, and they went back to normal.
Yeah, but Acosta would never be quiet. I mean, he
would just stand up.
He'd just stand up and keep talking. You know he would.
You know, it's part of the rough and tumble of the First Amendment.
Yeah. Well, okay, but...
remember Jefferson.
I
would rather have newspapers without government than a government without newspapers. A bit hyperbolic, but you can understand the value of the free press of the founders. Those would be the people that fought the war against George III.
You're just trying to understand the value of Jim Acosta being rude to everybody, including the President of the United States. We're out of time. Guess what?
All right. So you're giving yourself the last word.
Yeah, I am, as usual.